hanging out with Jason Whitlock, my partner in crime at OUTKICK. And we've been doing this now for a full week. We announced it last week on the program. He wrote 7 columns. I'd encourage you to go read his columns. Just basically bookmark OUTKICK in general. If you're sitting around at work, you're sitting around on your phone, you're standing in line somewhere, you got time to kill, just check out the stuff that we're putting up on a regular basis. We got a lot of smart, talented people putting out a lot of content on a daily basis at OUTKICK.com. And I don't want to speak exactly for you, Jason, but I know that we have talked a lot about how we want to use OUTKICK as an opportunity to lift up younger voices than us, right? You're 50, I'm in my 40s now. There is a lot of younger people out there that maybe want to be the next generation, the people like us who are in, they're 21 or 22 now. They're younger, they're a little bit older, whatever the case may be, and they're trying to find their way in this world. And we want to have a lot of different younger voices that we start to develop as a part of OUTKICK. And I know that's important to me. I think it's also very important to you. And as a part of that, we don't want people who just have the exact same thoughts as us. I mean, granted, if you're listening out there, you can have a different opinion than me or Jason Whitlock. You're probably wrong because we probably have thought through it better than you have. We can probably make a better argument. I say that to everybody in the country except my wife, who I immediately acknowledge is always right and I'm always wrong. But even on Father's Day weekend, and by the way, belated happy Father's Day to a lot of dads out there. But one of the things that happened over the weekend, I wake up on Saturday and you were pointing out going after a writer on a website called Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, who is newly woke, right? Everything is super woke to him, and he was criticizing Donald Trump because Donald Trump had not tweeted. I can't believe this is real world. Had not tweeted about Juneteenth, and somebody pointed out to Mike Florio, "Hey, wait a minute! You've been on this website on Twitter for 15 years or whatever the heck it is, and you'd never mentioned Juneteenth until this year either." And then you took it from there, and what happened?
Well, I just pointed out that I saw the guy's tweet, and I just pointed out, look, Mike Florio, in 15 years of owning NFL Talk and then converted it into Pro Football Talk, selling it to NBC in 2009, Mike Florio's now on Sunday Night Football's pregame show. He's made millions of dollars through talking about the NFL on different websites, on television, and now in the digital space. And he's never hired a black writer, ever, in 15 years. And I just get tired of hearing all of this support of every woke gesture and him calling out different people for not doing a gesture that he believes in or not showing support in whatever little symbolic way that he thinks support should be shown for black people. And I just think it's phony. And I think I've asked Mike for at least 3 years publicly over social media. I was like, hey, Mike, when are you going to hire someone black? Legitimize these criticisms of everyone else that you're leveling out there. Legitimize your support of Colin Kaepernick by hiring someone black at Pro Football Talk. You've made millions of dollars. You have an incredible amount of power and influence. Hire someone black. Make me believe you're serious about this and that this woke stuff isn't a beard covering up what you really think. And so, I challenge you in that way. This is not the first time I've done it. I've done it several times. And, he offered up some weak response, and it just made me fire back on him even more. And then all of a sudden, you came in, a third man into the ring off the top rope and just started clubbing him. And, he started going back and forth with you. And it just infuriates me because I think I'd followed the NFL Talk and Pro Football Talk and Mike Florio for a long time. And Mike, in one of his tweets, said, when I called him out about not hiring a black writer, the guy said something about, well, you may not remember, but I asked you about writing for Pro Football Talk years ago, and you said I couldn't afford you. And I was just blown away by that response because I'm not the only black sports writer in America. I think, I'm going to sound arrogant here, but the fact that you couldn't land possibly the best sports writer in America is proof that I shouldn't pursue anybody else. It is a joke. I mean, again, when I started The Undefeated, we hired some young people that we had to develop. When I went to Speak for Yourself and doing that television show, we hired some young people that had to be developed and nurtured. You don't have to start at the top. If you have a real commitment to empowering people and trying to help them improve their lot and helping them pull themselves up by their bootstraps, you may have to reach down and help someone develop and give them an entry-level job rather than, Jason Whitlock, who works for ESPN and the Kansas City Star and has been recognized all over the country as one of the best sports writers in America. If I can't get him, my search for black talent stops there. That's a joke.
He's also not been able to explain it, right? You point out that he wants to be super woke and he wants to come after other people for not being woke enough and everything else. And he's never hired anybody to write for him who's black. He responded to me, this is a direct quote, "You're a smart guy, or at least you believe you are. Take a step back. Look at how many people we employ. Look at how little turnover we've had. One of my 4 full-time writers is female. Have you ever hired a female? Does this mean you're a misogynist? See how easy that is." And I don't know. I mean, he's not a very smart guy. I think that's one of the things that he thinks he's smarter than he is. But he just walked right into a haymaker because he could have done a little bit of research. I had a female editor for 4 years on OUTKICK. She literally ran the site. So I responded, yeah, the editor of OUTKICK for 4 years was a woman. So yes, we've hired a woman. She ran the site. But back to you. He was bragging about how many people read his site and everything else. I said, hey, with all those page views and the huge success you've been bragging about, you still couldn't afford to employ a single black person in 15 years? Interesting. And then to be fair, all the OUTKICK community was just, I mean, he was trending, right, on Saturday if you missed all this. And if you want to see a recap of it, you can go read it at OUTKICK. But he was trending, and he still hasn't responded to any of this because people started going back into his archives at Pro Football Talk, and he insulted Mike Tirico pretty aggressively. I don't even think I can say what he said about Mike Tirico on the radio these days. He also said that Michael Strahan was gay. He's got all sorts of wildly not woke comments that he's made about gay people that are just like way over the top, and he still hasn't responded to any of that. But this goes to the thesis that you and I have in general here. And by the way, appreciate all the people who researched that. It's not like I'm going back through. And by the way, I'm not a believer in cancel culture, but it is often the case that the people who are the most woke now publicly are terrified of their past being uncovered and often trying to hide something, right? Like they're trying to be something that they haven't been before because they're afraid the Twitter mob is going to come after them. And look, you can agree or disagree with me. You can agree or disagree with you. I've known you for a long time now. You've known me for a long time. We could put my wife on the radio. She'd say I say the same thing off the air that I say on the air. You might not like me, but I am pretty much the exact same person sitting at the bar having a beer watching a game. You are too, within FCC restrictions, right? We can't curse, things like that. But this is what happens, right? A lot of these guys are hiding something, and I don't even think they believe a lot of what they're saying. And then they're like, oh, there's no way somebody else could believe what they're saying now. Now, I've been pretty consistent for 15 years as a public figure. I've had the same kind of beliefs. This guy's just a fraud.
He's a fraud, and I just want to be clear. Mike Florio can run Pro Football Talk however he sees fit to make it successful. He has no burden to hire someone to please me or to please some racial quota or whatever. My point is, just don't be out here hammering other people and pretending like they're racist and bigoted because they won't support kneeling during the national anthem. Let's quit trashing NFL ownership because there's only 3 black NFL head coaches. Because, again, and maybe they deserve some criticism for it. But if you're Mike Florio, who's owned a business for 15 years and hasn't been able to accidentally hire a black person, I just don't think you're a credible critic of the NFL ownership, because they only have 3 black head coaches at the time. I just think the hypocrisy level is just way too off the charts, and it just drives me crazy. We need to be having a more responsible, fair conversation about all these issues that I think will lead us to a better place than to have someone like Mike Florio using these issues to try to make himself look good rather than try to improve and make things better actually for disenfranchised people.
That's well said. It also factors in, to me, at just its most basic level of hypocrisy, right? You want to publicly say that you're doing one thing while privately you're doing the opposite. And I think we were talking in the first hour about the idea of LeBron James. And to me, the purpose of media that covers sports, or really media that covers anyone, should be to speak truth to power, right? And by what I mean by that is your job as a media member should not be to be clubby with every single person that you cover. Doesn't mean you can't be friends with people, you can't get to know them, things like that. But in sports, there is a lot of protection, it seems to me, of incredibly powerful people. And I thought what you were saying about LeBron is really well said. The guy's worth $500 million. You don't need to protect him from anyone else, right? We don't try. I don't think there's very many people out there who are trying to protect Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or other people who are worth Elon Musk for sure, right? Guys who have the resources to be able to hire and protect themselves like crazy because they're hundreds of millionaires or they're billionaires. The average sports fan out there isn't going to have access to LeBron to ask him to live the way he speaks. And the average person in the media doesn't have access. And so to me, this is just, it goes to the very essence. Believe whatever you want to believe, but don't be a hypocrite. I tend to find myself these days, Whitlock, going after hypocrites more than I do people who I disagree with.
There's no question about it. That, again, particularly the dangerous kind of hypocrisy we're seeing now in terms of when you start smearing people as racist. That's like the ultimate level of character assassination. It's hard to recover from that. When you start portraying on LeBron's stage, when you start portraying America as just unrepentantly racist and unfair, when particularly someone like LeBron, who has traveled the globe and should recognize, like, hey, man, America is flawed, but it is light years ahead of the rest of the globe when it comes to racial relationships. And particularly if you just look, LeBron's number one market outside the U.S. is China. Yep. If you compare America to China in terms of how black people are treated, it's not even in the same ballpark. That does not mean you can't criticize America and for some of its misgivings and mistakes and flaws and the improvements that we need to make. But damn it, be consistent. Don't sit there and fall silent on China and Hong Kong and the abuses that, again, if you just open your eyes, some of that, when you're over in China collecting millions of dollars for selling your shoes, just open your eyes and see how the average black person who steps foot in China is treated in China. Have some of that when you come over here and start denigrating America and talking about how bad things are over here. I just need a little perspective and nuance from people that should know better. The hypocrisy drives me crazy. That is not a defense of America. Like everything we do here and have done here is perfect. But let's just be fair, and let's be respectful of a country that has we have a descendant of a slave who was the U.S. president. We have LeBron James, Michael Jordan, people at the top of American culture. I take myself. I started out in the ghetto. And my father didn't graduate high school. My mother was a factory worker straight out of high school. And just where I've been able to ascend, where my brother has been able to ascend. Other countries just don't afford these kind of opportunities. We got some things we need to improve, but let's not kid ourselves. America is the greatest place on earth if you happen to be black. I'm just sorry, I believe that. And if people want to be upset with me about it, bring me the proof that I'm wrong, and I'll bow to your proof. But no one's brought me the proof yet.